Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to a special episode of Waz Reviews. Happy May the 4th, everyone! That's right, it's Star Wars Day, or one of the Star Wars days. While I spend a lot of time on this channel talking about Star Trek, I'm also a Star Wars fan and even have a couple of Star Wars videos. But I've been keeping one in the vault for quite some time now. In fact, for over a year and a half. The very first video that I made when I started to consider doing YouTube reviews and commentary was a review of the classic Star Wars game, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. I made the video, ran into some copyright claims, edited it down, uploaded it again, and then never released it. Until today. I think part of me was still unsure about doing a YouTube channel, and even when I started making regular videos, I kept this one in my drafts. But you know what? It's Star Wars Day, and I want to release a Star Wars video today. Now, this was my first video, and suffice to say, it's a lot rougher than my usual content. Good gravy, do I sound like I'm speaking in a monotone. But part of me wants to release this video as a way for me to show how far I've come and maybe encourage some of you to start making videos. If you always wanted to make videos, but you feel like whatever you're putting together isn't good enough, take this as some encouragement. You have to start somewhere, and the more you work on videos, the better and faster it'll get. Look, even I was a beginner at one point, and I'm still learning and building up my channel. But you can't improve until you start somewhere. With that out of the way, let's view my very first YouTube video. My friends, Waz Reviews Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire is a different kind of Star Wars game. Instead of following a Jedi or flying in a ship through a galaxy far, far away, it looks at events in between episodes 5 and 6 through the eyes of a mercenary. This game is a classic among Star Wars fans, as it was one of the first games on the Nintendo 64. It was even ported to PCs a few years later with a couple of improvements. This review is for the PC version of the game, but the Nintendo 64 version is very similar. So, in Shadows of the Empire, the player follows the adventures of mercenary Dash Rendar, just hired by the Rebel Alliance. Dash was brought in to deliver weapons to Hoth, but as the events of The Empire Strikes Back play out, the Rebels ask him to track down Boba Fett and protect Luke Skywalker from Prince Xizor, the Black Sun crime syndicate, who just so happens to be vying for Darth Vader's job as Emperor Palpatine's patsy. But has he ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? So, let's follow Dash and his droid co-pilot Levo as they take on Imperials, assassin droids, and members of Black Sun. After all,
gotta earn my pay.
The game has 10 levels which are divided into 4 chapters, each with an opening crawl. Take that, Rogue One and Solo! No opening crawls for spin-off stories. While you can play the game on easy, I recommend playing on at least medium just because you only get a partial ending otherwise. I found that out the hard way. Throughout the game, you can collect optional challenge points that unlock special abilities for replays at the end of the game. Now that that's out of the way, let's take a look at the levels. The game starts out with the Battle of Hoth, which feels very much like a level in Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Now, I'm not the greatest at flight sims, but I didn't have too much trouble with this level. It's not timed, and you can take out enemies at your own pace, provided you don't get hit too many times. Most of this level consists of destroying the Imperial probe droids, AT-STs, and AT-ATs. AT-ATs, AT-ATs. How about just walkers? While most enemies can simply be shot down, you do have to use tow cables to take down the walkers. I've always had a hard time with this in Rogue Squadron, but here it wasn't nearly as difficult, even if the camera is still a little weird. Okay, the battle is over. It's time to
get the hell out of here.
Han, Chewie, Leia, and 3PO have taken off in the Falcon, and now it's time for Dash to make it back to his ship to hightail it out of here. But first he has to get the generator working so he can open the door and leave. This level is a ground mission and more representative of the bulk of the game than the previous level. Like most levels, the layout is straightforward and doesn't require you to memorize a map. There's minimal backtracking throughout the game, so just keep going forward. The base is crawling with stormtroopers and wampas, which take multiple hits with Dash's blaster. Dash doesn't have the best aim. In fact, throughout the game, if there's an enemy above him, you'll have to fire multiple shots just so Dash can aim up. It's not game-breaking, but it is a little annoying, and other Star Wars games have handled this better. On the plus side, there aren't a lot of enemies in the level, so it's not the worst thing this game could have done. So after Dash makes his way through Echo Base, he'll reach the generator, flip on the switches, and leave, right? No, it's the second level, so clearly it's time for a boss fight. Yeah, that's right, second level in, and there's a boss fight. This game has a lot of boss fights, so I highly recommend using Dash's blaster for regular enemies and stocking up on any special ammo for bosses, which can be hard to come by when you need it most. After Dash's escape, it's time for a turret section. Look, I'll be honest, I do not like turret sections in Star Wars games. They are annoying, I myself have terrible aim, and I just want to run around on planets. This game graces us with 2 of them. Now, as much as I dislike turret sections, I got past this level without too much trouble. I ended up going back and forth with camera views between the cockpit view and the third-person view. I'm not sure that helped at all, but I managed to get through this level even with my terrible aim. Okay, so now that that's over with, Dash is tasked with chasing down bounty hunter IG-88 at the Ord Mantell junkyard. In a trope that is often repeated in video games, most of the level is jumping from train cart to train cart, avoiding any obstacles that come your way.
Easy, you say?
Or it is once you get the hang of the jumping physics in this game. You see, Shadows of the Empire has some of the weirdest game physics I've ever encountered in a video game. It's very slip and slidey and can change direction even as you jump. This is very apparent in this level since you really have to take into account any drift that might occur from the direction the cart is going. But honestly, outside of that, the level itself isn't too bad. It just might take a few attempts to get the timing right. After you ever so subtly crash the train through the loading door, this leads to a boss fight with IG-88. That's right, 4 levels in and 2 boss fights. This is one of the easier bosses in this game, but it's still challenging. Getting close to IG-88 can be deadly, so I ended up employing a hit-and-run technique throughout this fight. You also have to avoid falling into these vats of molten metal, though if you do happen to fall in, you can get out of it and continue on, though with less health. Eventually, IG-88 goes down, and hey, he already told you where you have to go next.
I see no risk in informing you that I have tracked my esteemed competitor to the Jar system.
So, I guess it all worked out. And now on to the hunt for Boba Fett. Next stop, Gull Spaceport, where gravity is your biggest enemy. But this is the level you get a jetpack. Not gonna lie, growing up, I had fond memories of that jetpack. The jetpack has limited fuel, and while it does recharge over time, you still can't heavily rely on it for long periods of time. Of course, it also comes in handy when you have to take down yet another ATST. But don't worry, this is the last one in the game, I promise. Making your way through the spaceport and finding out which parking garage Boba parked his car.
What the hell is this cog, Kramer? We need a system!
Leads up to the incredible moment where you face the galaxy's fiercest bounty hunter. Fighting Boba himself is tough, but that actually ends up being the easy part of this boss. Ugh. Why are you like this, Bob? This is one of the most annoying parts of this game because you have to attack from behind, a big enough target to be honest, but it's getting back there and firing that's the tough part. But let me tell you, once this fight is over, it's really, really satisfying. On the next episode of an 80s action show, Dash must race a biker gang on Tatooine before they can reach Luke Skywalker. Or so I thought. You see, I was under the impression that you simply had to outrun the biker gang, not Ben-Hur every biker in the gang. You must make each biker crash before they reach Luke because if so much as one biker reaches Luke, he's dead! You know, for a guy that's supposed to bring back the Jedi Order, Luke can't take on one measly biker gang that Michael Knight could have taken on in an episode of Knight Rider. Granted, Michael Knight had Kit, but Luke has the Force! Alright, back to the review. This level isn't too difficult, that is, once you know what you're supposed to be doing, but what would have helped is an arrow indicating where the bikers were headed. It's not a problem once you get out into the desert, it's just one straight path you have to follow, but it's very easy to get turned around in the streets of Mos Eisley. Okay, Luke is safe, so clearly it's time for a little breaking and entering. Dash has to steal a supercomputer from an Imperial Star Destroyer, the Saprosa.
Now give it to me!
This is a family heirloom and I intend to keep it!
Just dinna light that candle.
Why not?
It'll bring the ghost.
Look, I'm sure the Imperials didn't almost name their ship after one of the worst Star Trek episodes.
Just dinna light that candle.
Wait, do they name their ships after the worst Star Trek episodes? You know, like the Star Destroyer Threshold, the Move Along Home, the These Are the Voyages. And does that mean Rebel ships are named after the good episodes? You know, something like The Inner Light, the In the Pale Moonlight, the City on the Edge of Forever, The Trouble with Tribbles?
Stop it now!
Anyway, on the ship there are stormtroopers and or turrets around every corner, and it's nearly impossible to sneak up on them or take cover, meaning you'll probably take more than your fair share of shots. Look at this poor guy. Just pulled a 12-hour shift, went to his quarters to relax, and BOOM! Dash also misplaced his new amazing jetpack, and why would you ever take it off for this level? So you'll have to make do and avoid falls all on your own. It also makes this weird door puzzle harder. I mean, it's not impossible, but it does involve a little trial and error and following where certain staircases lead. Now, of course, this will lead you to yet another boss fight, which can be over in about 10 seconds if you happen to pick up a disruptor that was just lying around. Look, nobody said the Imperials were smart. And since breaking and entering once wasn't enough, Dash then breaks into Xizor's palace through the sewers of the Imperial City. Can't we have one Star Wars game that doesn't wind up in a sewer? So, as Dash makes his way through chilly night, I guess, he has to fight off probes and these poor saps that got assigned to toilet duty just to find a key. Who hides a security key in the toilet? And then he takes a dive in, well, you get the idea. You know, I certainly hope Dash took a shower after all this. I wonder what these guys did to get assigned to waste extraction.
A good waste extraction system is important. Imagine where we'd be without one.
Well, apparently there was something in the water because this here is your next boss. Couple shots to the eye, and eventually you sneak into Xizor's palace. Xizor's palace. I'm gonna level with you all here. I had a really difficult time with this level on medium. In fact, I ended up taking a break from the game for a while just because this level got so frustrating. Oh, getting through the actual level isn't horrible. Most of the time you're running around fighting off assassin droids and Black Sun members and probes. Not exactly out of the ordinary. The level doesn't even require a lot of backtracking, it's mostly flipping a switch and going back to the door. Even setting up the mines isn't difficult. This sounds like a pretty typical day for Dash. No, the problem lies in the 3-part boss with Xizor's gladiator droid.
I hope you find him as entertaining as I have over the years.
This is why I suggest saving your ammo in this game. Sure, you can probably finish off the gladiator droid with a couple of carefully aimed disruptor shots at the right times, if your aim is good, which mine isn't. So you have to fight this droid in 3 parts. Once you take him down the first time, you have to fight his torso in a maze, which, luckily there's health and ammo scattered around, along with the occasional assassin droid, but they're the least of your problems. But once you finish off his torso, you have to fight his floating head with a laser beam. And that's where things get tricky. Not only is his head difficult to aim for, being a much smaller object, but your jetpack starts malfunctioning. Jetpack, no! After all we've been through.
He who was my companion through adventure and hardship is gone forever.
So, once your fuel runs out, there's no more jetpack. Seekers are the weapon of choice for this boss, and I used them most of the time, but the way I ended up finishing this fight was carefully aiming a disruptor shot and ending it immediately. Look, I know I said I was a terrible aim, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. Well, time to get Shizor out of Skyhook Basin. Ah, there it is! There it is, the other turret section! Well, the good news is if you destroy enough Black Sun fighters, you'll get extra lives. The bad news is if you're not good at turret sections, you'll die. A lot. So you have to hold off these fighters until you reach the Skyhook and get control of your ship, the Outrider. Then all you have to do is destroy the turrets and blow up the Skyhook. Simple, right? Well, as long as you don't get shot by the turrets. But, like in Return of the Jedi, you blow the reactor core on the Skyhook and...
Where's Dash? Must not have made it out of the Skyhook before it blew.
So we've reached the end of the game. If you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this time code. Now, if you beat the game on easy, you'll get a scene with Luke and Leia talking about Dash. Luke can't believe he didn't make it, but Leia reminds him that his sacrifice isn't in vain because...
the Alliance no longer has anything to fear from Black Sun.
And the game ends. But play on medium and... what's this? The Outrider! Dash, you're alive! Turns out he and Lebo made the jump to hyperspace, and since everyone thinks they're dead, no one from Black Sun will come looking for them. And besides...
It's good to be remembered as a martyr without actually having to be dead, wouldn't you say?
I can't think of a more perfect ending for this game. It fits Dash's personality as a merc so well. And so concludes Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. So, how does it hold up? Difficulty-wise, it's not horribly difficult. It's challenging, sure, but for the most part, not frustratingly so. The controls and game physics probably make it tougher than it needed to be, but you know what? I can live with that. But I recommend a walkthrough for this game. Honestly, you really don't need one. The level design is straightforward, and as long as you keep pushing forward and explore the area you're in, you shouldn't get easily stuck. However, there's no shame if you look up hints for certain bosses. Overall, I recommend this game. It's a fun midquel that stays true to the Star Wars universe. If you can acquire this game digitally or happen upon a physical copy, whether for PC or N64, it's a worthy addition to any Star Wars collection. I have the occasional gripes about the game, but it's still a fun game to play. I give this game 4 out of 5 credits. And that, my friends, was my first video. Pretty rough, am I right? But for reals, Shadows of the Empire is a solid Star Wars video game. Even if you don't like the book, because I know I didn't, definitely still check out the game. It's much different and pretty good. But now what do you think? Did you ever play Star Wars Shadows of the Empire? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What are your opinions on the book? And what did you think of my very first attempt at a video review? Please, leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Waz Reviews. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time...
Always.